Everyone present in this masterclass. I would like to first thank Honorable Mr. Corey Lane to accept this invite and enlighten us with knowledge in this session. Mr. Lane is the Minister of State in the Office of Attorney General with focus in crime prevention. He is not just a member of parliament, but also a social activist who works tirelessly in social justice fields. Today, he will be sharing with us on how communities can actively drive their own safety initiatives and work together to reduce crime in their neighborhood. In today's masterclass, we will not only look in the role of community participation, but also the obstacles that communities in everyday life face when they take on these challenges and which appear from the bottom up. I encourage every participant who's present in this today's masterclass to understand what roles that we play in this environment. And crime prevention is not only responsibility of the law enforcement, which is the police or the army, but also the effort that begins with us as the community that we reside in. I would next like to hand out the speech to my Honorable Corey to begin this masterclass.
Hello, greetings. And what an honor it is for me to be here at this master class. I'm really looking forward to engaging session. I want to give you some context of what I'm going to be talking about. I want to get into it, and then I want to spend the majority of time interacting with you, taking your questions, and nothing is really off of the table. I want difficult questions. I want hard questions. So think of the hardest questions that you can ask, and I like the challenge of being able to answer those questions. So first, a little background on myself. When I was about 15 years old, I would have been considered what was called then a delinquent juvenile or juvenile delinquent, someone at risk, being involved in blocks, gangs, and so on. And a number of things happened around that time in my life that caused me to pivot and to change focus and actually take a 180 turn, a complete turnaround, where as opposed to being at-risk youth, I became a peer educator and got involved in a lot of youth work. Besides losing my mom during her childbirth, going through childbirth, and losing a friend to gun violence, it was really a turnaround period for me. And I took that very traumatic experience and that grief, and I focused it into how can I prevent the pain that I'm going through for a number of my peers. And I started an at-risk youth organization, and that would have been some 26 years ago. So for the last 23 years, I've been running that full time. In the last 3 years, I've been in this role as a member of parliament and also a minister responsible for crime prevention. So it's something that I've done all my life at the practical level, now at the policy level. So it's something I feel very competent to speak on from a practical perspective, but also from a very policy directed place as well. So after I made my turn, funny enough, I got involved in what was the National Youth Council here in Barbados, and I also got involved in the National Youth Parliament. I am actually the first youth parliamentarian, to actually be elected to the House of Parliament. So that is quite an achievement, albeit that the Youth Parliament is about 25 years old in Barbados, or a little bit older than that, and I'm the first parliamentarian. So I think it gives inspiration to others to see that you can actually follow through in your dream in representing your country. So that is about me. Now let's talk about community violence and how we can prevent it and how we are preventing it in this side of the region. Now, when you think of the Caribbean, I hope that you think of beautiful oceans, wonderful beaches, and a really, really good time. And that is what it is for the most part. But we cannot shy away from the fact that although Latin America and Caribbean carries about 8 to 9% of the world's population, it actually has 37% of the world's homicides and 50% of the world's organized crime. So disproportionately, per capita, per population, we have more homicides, more crime. A lot of that is to do with our history. And today's masterclass is not about that. Today's masterclass is understanding what are the causes so that we can come up with data-driven, evidence-based solutions. Now, one last thing before I get down really into the brass tacks of it is this. 2 years ago, when I was appointed to this position, and until now, it's been a very difficult road. So do not even think that because once you reach a certain level that things go away. The fact that you are young, being the youngest and newest minister, I am confronted with that as almost like a barrier because of your age, people usually discount your experience. People discount the fact that you know what you're talking about because you're young. You may have the most brilliant ideas. Now, as I like to tell people, I am young, but I've been around long because, as I said, I've been doing this for 26 years. So don't look at the part that I'm 42. A lot of my peers are in their 50s, 60s, 70s. The fact that I've been doing this for 26 years has to count for something. So coming into the ministry, we always had a posture in this side of the world that crime prevention was about law enforcement. It was about a heavy-handed approach. It was about police. It was about prison. It was about prosecutors. And coming into the ministry, I wanted to introduce that social intervention part and that part where we look at the root causes. Why are people getting involved in drugs? Why are people getting involved in crime? Looking at the social, deep structural and societal root causes of things like poverty, lack of opportunity, social exclusion, self-esteem and self-confidence lacking, and actually treating to those root causes to bring about meaningful prevention and what I call real prevention. So I set about to actually set up the National Crime Prevention Program and Plan. And it had 3 phases, 6 pillars, and let's go down the road. The first thing I was tasked with doing is, number 1, bringing down the heat on the street. And the heat on the street is that we had war between 2 major gangs, shooting and killing one another in a small country of about 250,000 people in Barbados, and with the 3rd largest region with about 600 and something million people. When you look at each individual island, my island per se, we have about 250,000 people. So 3 people dying per day is very high in context of the population. And we had about 49 murders in 1 year. That was a record, and everybody was feeling unsafe. And they had the responsibility to bring that down. And what we decided to do, or what my team and I decided we would do, is we would engage in a program called the Direct Intervention Program. And that is basically where you go up there, talk to people, feel people, hear people, and actually start to work with people. Previous to that, we had a broadcast program where we do billboards and we do ads and we do bus stops. And I believe that all of you would agree with me. If you got a gangster, you got a bad man, you got an angry man, and he's going to kill somebody, and he sees a bus stop or a banner or a poster, he's not going to say, you know what, I'll go back home and we're not going to kill somebody. So I thought it very important to change that up and actually go interact with these blocks, interact with these gangs. And luckily for me, my 26 years working in prison, working with at-risk youth, when I went out into the streets, I met a lot of people that I've seen along the way. They had the familiarity, they had the trust, and they were able to go through our 4-step program for community violence reduction. And step 1 was a non-aggression agreement. These people really don't want to die. So what we actually got the 2 sides to do is to play defense. So over here, you play defense. Over here, you play defense. So you know what ended up happening? If two teams are playing defense, there's no offense. During that period of time, we said, let's get to the table. I must admit, I was lucky, I was blessed that both sides wanted to come to the table because they were losing a lot of bodies and they were losing a lot of money. As bad as people you think they are, they do feel away when they are losing their soldiers or their brothers in arms next to them. They do feel it. Also, they make a lot of money from drug trade. They make a lot of money from putting on shows. And when there's a lot of violence in society, people do not come out to shows. And the police is more present. And as they would say, every time they string up a speaker to do a show, the police is there to pull it down. So they're losing money because people are not moving around. And they're losing money because they're unable to put on shows that bring in a lot of money. So they were losing all around. So it was really in their benefit to come to the table to see how could we resolve this. One of the most shocking things for me when we came to the table is that a lot of the war that they were having was based on a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of petty things, a lot of things that each other thought that the other offended the other side. But when we really talked through it, it was like some of the most ridiculous things that you can think about. So around that table for a 5-month period, we were able to iron out about 15 years of misunderstandings, and a truce was formed on the 17th of February, 2022. And following that, we saw a reduction in the homicide rate by 52%. So we cut it in more than half. Because at the end of the day, you will still have things, that have crimes of passion. Sometimes you have people who go and offend people suddenly, people out partying, drinking, they're not in the right mind, and somebody offends somebody and quick, so you may still have a homicide. But to bring it down by 52% within an 8-month period, obviously would be a good and significant achievement. And that basically was done by going out there and working with the teams on the ground directly. So as I said to my team, getting the peace was quite easy. Keeping the peace is what is hard. Because after we got the peace, we had to look at what sustainable, legitimate, legal, lucrative activity we can replace that illegal disruptive behavior that they have. So we introduced a number of programs, which so far, so good. They're now 16 months one, 22 months the other one, working fine. We call it the Major Player Pivot Program. And this is where we take a number of the leaders and we find out from them what legitimate businesses do you want to get involved in. And we are going to help you with these businesses with 2 caveats. One, our special branch police will be watching you. So you're not going to take our capital and go and buy more ammunition and more guns and do foolishness. And number 2, if you ever step out of line, it's going to be very, very problematic. We're giving you a chance. Here's your chance. Take it. Do what I tell you. Take it. And for out of the 11 major groups, because there were 2 major groups, but the 11 groups outside of those, everybody have been taking up the opportunity and actually employing other people. And it's been working so good so far. Good. The other thing that we're doing, don't tell anybody, we're also watching them covertly. So we're watching them overtly and we're watching them covertly to ensure that they don't step out of line or use this money to build cartels and so on. And the reason we had to do that is it was very hard to convince my colleagues to do this because other places have tried it and they have failed. And I don't believe just because it's failed in one scenario that it will fail in all scenarios. Because by meeting with these guys, I did pick up a genuine sense of wanting to change. I picked up maturity in them. I picked up the fact that some of them were tired running for their lives, running from other gangs, running from the police, cannot go and enjoy themselves, prisoners in their own districts or villages or gaps or communities, and they just want to live and they want to enjoy themselves. So that has been a program that has been successful thus far. Now, one negative, on coming out of prison, there are about 2 persons who used to be with one of these sides that decided that they did not want any peace at all. So on being released on bail, they started to send threats between the 2 sides, trying to pit the 2 sides against each other. Thank God that has been, they've maintained the truce among the 2 sides, but that new entity has started to cause some problems, actually taking the homicide rate up by 50%, 57%. But with combination of factors, using the methodology we used early with the non-aggression agreement, the fact that we've amended some laws here in the country last year, increasing sentencing from about 15 years to 40 years, and the fact that a number of the leadership of that new entity have been killed, the remaining leaders have seen the way, have bought into the path of wisdom and decided to reach out. We were trying to reach out now for about 2 months to them, but they now have reached out to us. And we had our first meeting with them just this Wednesday gone, where they say, look, we want some peace now. So if we have that third entity entering into the peace arena, I can tell you, I am very optimistic for next year that our numbers will be record-breaking again in relation to the lowest rate of homicides in the region and for a very, very long time. So for me, I just want to say, let's say if we could, let me see one minute's time I went, right. I would like to pause there. I think that is my 20 minutes in terms of giving you a synopsis of the community violence by intervention. And I will just wrap this part up with community violence, looking at initiatives. So interventions are where we are addressing persons who are already involved in crime to stop them from being involved in crime. And there are really 2 phases to that. Reducing the heat on the street, as I said, and situational crime prevention. Situational crime prevention is a standard strategy in criminology where you make crime more difficult to commit, less rewarding. This is where you increase CCTV, you increase the chances of being caught, you debush so that there are not the chances and the opportunity, you harden targets, you use more locks, you use more bars and different things like that. But the third part is the initiatives, and that's my favorite part. That is where you stop young people from becoming criminals in the first place. And we do that by entertain, train, brain, sustain, maintain. And of course, I'm going to break that down and then I'll shut up. So in the initiatives, we first of all introduce a number of entertaining initiatives to bring those hard to reach, sometimes impossible to reach young people. So we set up an experience platform, like the bikes and the ATVs and the paintball and the horseback riding and the sports and all of that. That's entertain. That brings them in. Then we went to the brain, the mindset, personal and professional development, building confidence, building etiquette, building morals and values. That's the brain. Then we do training in soft skills and training in practical skills that they now can go and be employed. And then, of course, there's the sustain, setting up employment opportunities, business opportunities, career opportunities. And that is the sustain, so that they can sustain themselves. In order to maintain that, what we try to do is to encourage them to get involved in organizations that they don't backslide, that they have a set of friends, a ecosystem, a peer group that can keep them on a positive path. So we encourage them to join the Boy Scouts, enjoy church, a sports group, faith-based organization, whatever they will more be, enticed to be involved in. So many initiatives from boxing and all types of things, whatever they want to get involved in as fun and legal and adventurous. Because when you're young, you like to do things fast, you like to do things fun, you like to do things risky. And what we do, we facilitate it in a safe, wholesome environment. So those are the interventions and those are the initiatives. So in a nutshell, that is our community approach to reducing violence among young people in Barbados and something we're spreading across the Caribbean and Latin America. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, regarding your whole journey. That was really touching and it has really inspired all of us. So now we'll move towards the question and answer session. So all our teams have a lot of inquisitive questions for you. So we'll begin with that session. First of all, we have Teen MP Arisa Fatima from Hyderabad in India. Arsia, please ask a question.
Thank you so much. Greetings everyone. I am Arisa Fatima from class 9th MS Education Academy, Hyderabad, India. Well, I'm very glad that Minister Lane has joined us today because I always had this question to ask someone. So, Minister Lane, how can young people contribute to make our community safer and reduce crime in meaningful ways?
So there are many, many ways that young people can assist. And I actually believe that without the participation of young people, we are not going to be successful. Youth Parliament, think about it. What is your number one thing? It's debating, it's speak-offs, it is sharing your views and your opinions. It starts there. Sharing them in a way with good research, good presentation, compelling arguments, so that policymakers have to listen. In the past, when I was in Youth Parliament, we used to feel as though we were not heard. And then when we were heard, it was very tokenistic. It was window dressing. Yes, we heard from the young people, but there was no translation of our suggestions into policy. When I became Prime Minister of Youth Parliament, I said, no more. So what we started to do, we stopped doing mock debates and we're saying we're having real debates on issues. And at the end of the debates, we would do resolutions and send them to every member of parliament and ask the clerk to put them on their desk. They can't miss them. And then we lobby for them. So first, make sure that your voice is heard. In your own sphere as well, there are a lot of things that take on within your peer groups. I don't know how it is around the world, but one of our major problems among young people is this idea of I am snitching, I ain't an informer, I ain't getting anybody in trouble. So when you see something, you don't want to say something. And that makes the problem worse. So as young people, you can actually help by educating your peers that is a very silly approach to life. But you don't do it preachy because then you become like an adult, they don't want to hear you. But when you know where that illegal firearm is and you don't say anything, the same bullet from that firearm can kill you or your family or your friend or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, etc., etc., etc. So it is also having impact on the peers around you. But I think the most powerful way is to get involved and to use your agency. What I did at 15 was to start my own organization because organizations that I had joined were very boring, promised a lot of things, deliver nothing. I said, I'm going to do it on my own. Of course, it was very, very difficult. I will not pretend. But the activities that I wanted to do, the hiking, the horseback riding, and those type of things, I went out and I coordinated, I organized, I lacing up my shoes, and I get out there. And we got to understand as young people, and I think I put myself in this bracket for a couple more years, as young people, we have to understand that we have agency and we could go and implement the things that we want to see. Be the change in the world that you want to see. You can do it. You have the power to do it.
Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. It really gives all a direction to what we can take in that realm. Moving ahead, we have the third WTP MP, Jude Joe from Sharjah in the UAE. Please go ahead with the question.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Jude Joe, studying in Arun English High School, Sharjah, UAE. And my question is, what strategies can communities implement to enhance the safety of women and children without restricting their independence or mobility?
Excellent question again. In terms of community or situational crime prevention, that is one of the ways. Education is another way, of course, and then engaging with persons who would be at risk. So we're going to break down all three of them. I see a question here. I'm going to kind of dovetail into it one time. Within our context, the private sector has really helped us to be able to bolster and boost a lot of technology in our areas where we get to install a lot of more CCTV and lighting. These things, these little environmental changes have a massive impact on how people operate. Some detect and some deter. I believe in deter more so than detect. So for instance, what we started to see when we put up CCTV, people started to wear masks and they started to wear 3 and 4 shirts and 5 and 6 pants to give themselves a different look. And we had to inform them that we have technology that undresses you. Like when you go to the airport, you spread out your arms, you can see a little bit too much, you shouldn't see, but the technology is there to undress you. So to deter them, they need to know that the technology is there to detect and also to be able to bring them to justice. The second, so there are various things you can do in that situational crime prevention. The second thing is education. There are simple little studies around the world that we share with our population. For instance, a woman walking with an umbrella is 60% less likely to be attacked on the road. A lady with a different hairstyle, like ponytail, you're 30% more likely to be attacked. Now, these studies have been done over a period of time with international law enforcement agencies recognizing particular trends. So the whole idea is to make sure that the education is available to women and children, that they can use these specific tactics and tips to make sure that they harden themselves as a target. Criminals do not like hard targets. They're like easy targets. So you make sure the education is out there. And of course, methodology is it. It's methodology, methodology, methodology. So it's social media, it's TikTok, it is wherever there are that you make sure that you get these tips out there in means, because remember, we go in shorter and shorter forms. You know, people used to like to watch, you know, documentaries an hour, then so okay, we gotta do sitcoms at half an hour, and then we start doing mini series, and then we start doing the 3 minutes, and then we start doing the TikTok, and now we to memes. So people's, you know, attention span sometimes a nanosecond, you know. So we gotta make sure that we use the right methodology. And the third thing is initiatives. Who are the persons who will be attacking these youth and these children and these women? We gotta get to them. We gotta get to them to get them to a point where they don't want to do that. Give them something to live for, give them opportunities, or get them off the road and get them in prison with some long prison terms. I believe in a all of the above type strategy. I'm not a left or a right, I'm a all the above. So once you do those 3 things, I believe that the women and the children and everybody in the society will be safe.
Thank you so much for your answer, sir. Moving ahead, we have Teen MP Tehzeeb Kabir from Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Greetings, sir. I'm Tehzeeb Kabir, an MP at the 3rd WTP, a student of grade 9 from Daffodil International School, Dhaka, Bangladesh. My question is, how do you think we can engage the community to prevent crimes by themselves, ensuring their own safety?
A lot of what I said before can tie into this, but I could also add the whole idea, the popular idea of community watches. Now, the neighborhood watches and community watches, you know, in past years were pretty popular. We've all become more individualistic world as time has gone on, and it's about looking out for your neighbors. So I think that each one reach one is a good way to go. I believe that, you know, setting up these type of things, like for instance, in some parts of the world, you have neighborhoods where people don't know their neighbors. So that neighborhood becomes a soft target for a criminal. If everybody knows everybody, or as many people as possible know each other, the community is in a group chat, and you see suspicious activity in real time, you can have your neighbors warned so that they're looking out. You can have law enforcement informed, and people have their various things. As I said, harden the targets, have your burglar bars, have your locks, have your CCTV, have your dogs, have whatever. Some people, depending on where you live, have your firearms. And it makes the target so hard. It makes the committing the crime so difficult. It makes the reward so lessened, that what we find that when we do these things, it is very difficult for communities then to become dangerous. And we have safer communities and more resilient communities.
Thank you so much, sir. Moving ahead, we have Teen MP Vinayak Gupta from Panchkula, Haryana, India. Vinayak, please go ahead.
Namaste, sir. I'm third WTP MP Vinayak Gupta from Bhanvidale, Panchkula, Haryana. My question to you is, what skills or experiences would you recommend teenagers develop to effectively address issues like bullying, substance abuse, and community safety?
Very, very good question. So bullying is a very, very hard one. Youth substance abuse, again, a very, very difficult one. Bullying, conflict resolution, substance abuse, very difficult ones. Not going to pretend or sugarcoat it. Bullying is really a conundrum, because in bullying situations, right, when you walk away, you are seen as a greater target because the bully sees you as a soft target. When you react, you get into violence, and you too can get into trouble, or you can get harmed. So it's almost like a lose-lose. How do you get around a situation like that? For me, it must start at the top. Principals, school administrators must adopt a zero tolerance policy for bullying. There are a lot of people who don't want to complain because you don't want to seem like tattletales. You don't want to seem like, as I said, informers. That makes it difficult. Some teachers ignore it. Children telling all the time, oh, go sit down or toughen up. That kind of thing you hear sometimes. All of these are very, very bad. The best answer I could give for this, using my own personal experience, was really and truly, and it may not work for everybody, but I can just go on my own experience. I've avoided bullying by a bit of comedy matched with a bit of bravado. So what I used to do sometimes is like, I know you had a bad day or something, make a joke, try to walk away. And also be very, very serious and stern. And I would say, I remember, please, I don't want this to be a joke, but it's kind of funny now that I look back. I'd be like, trust me, you do not want to trouble me. And that time my face is very serious, I look crazy. Trust me, you don't want this fight. You don't. And although that worked for me, I don't want to say that that's a panacea or a all-fit one kind of scenario. But I do believe that having systematic methods and measures in schools is the best way to address bullying. So within our own context, I've introduced the 1, 2, 3, 4 bullying strategy, and I have brought the principals of the secondary schools together. They've signed on it. 1, in the first instance of bullying, there is mandatory reporting and mandatory counseling. On the second occasion, the parents are called in, and the parents and the child is warned. On the third occasion, there is mandatory assignment to an intervention program for the bully. Mandatory. It means you have to go and enroll in some intervention, be it skills training, youth service, whatever. Third. The fourth is mandatory responsibility, meaning that there will be some form of consequence, whether it is charge, it is police, juvenile liaison scheme that we have here. On the fourth occasion, you will be dealt with. because people only understand one thing sometimes, and that is consequence. The problem with bullying is that it is continuous. So the bullies until somebody can't take it anymore, and they pop it off, and it gets really, really bad, and we all know what that means. So for me, it's really to make sure that the school, this is more a school level thing, that you have that your zero tolerance, and you have a methodology to deal with each case of bullying. I encourage parents, teachers, leaders to take every report of bullying seriously. That is the issue too. Sometimes you go and you make a report and it's not taken serious, and then you feel as though I have to remain getting bullied, or I have to take matters into my own hands. And that should not be, okay? In terms of substance abuse, a very, very difficult one as well, because once you start, depending on your own physical and psychological makeup, it is very hard to get off. Addiction is a very, very serious thing. The best thing for substance abuse, in my opinion, is really not to start in the first place, because once you start, it is very difficult. But some of the best drug treatment and drug prevention programs that I have seen is really working on goals of people. And what does that mean? I've done a jockey program in my country, one of the most effective drug programs ever. A lot of the guys are very, very, very passionate about writing, and they know that they get random drug tests. They are more passionate about writing than drugs or substance abuse. So what do? They ensure that they keep away from this because they have that. But if you don't have a that, then you would do this. And it does not have to be horse riding or racing. It can be anything. When you have a goal, you know where you are going, you are less likely to engage in behaviors that would prevent you from reaching that goal. So my substance abuse approach is really education, honest, real education, not just drugs are bad. No, real education, letting you know the real dangers of drugs, not just to scare people, but to inform people. And secondly, to ensure that you try to prevent it by getting people involved and getting people motivated and getting people working on their passions. Because if you really want to be something, you don't want to be involved in teenage pregnancy or drugs or crime or anything that would take you off of that thing that you are so passionate about. But if you don't have that goal, you don't have that passion, then what the heck? I could try it. I could do it because it's not taking me away from the passion. So to deal with that whole idea of substance abuse, education, motivation.
Thank you so much, sir. That's an answer that many of us have also faced. The substance abuse always lingers around all of us, and bullying is something as teenagers we all may face or may be a part of this. That is, and actually a very good advice for everyone as a lesson that we can take. Thank you so much, sir. Moving ahead, we have influencer, World Tea Parliament influencer, Johan Thomas. Johan, please ask your question.
Good morning, Honorable Corey Lane. My name is Johan. I live in the United Arab Emirates, and I study in class 10 in our own English High School, Sharjah Boys. My question to you is, how can teenagers contribute to digital safety within their communities?
Good, excellent. Again, a lot of this starts with education and public awareness. One of the programs we had here a couple of years ago was about think twice, click once. And it was about, sometimes when we are working or we're looking at the internet, we don't think about the consequences of our actions or what we're doing or how safe it can be to do certain things, right? So the whole idea is to be aware, public awareness, the dangers of the digital world that we live in, and then acting upon that. Awareness is one thing, action is another. So for me, it is for people to understand the consequences of these particular actions. I think we take it for granted. If you think years ago, in your parents' age or your grandparents' age, if you think about it, the restrictions placed on them were a lot more, I imagine, placed on you. A lot of them could not talk to friends of the opposite sex, even on outside in the road, farthest more, inside the house. But with digital technology, you can actually do that in your bed. You know what I mean? So these are things that sometimes as parents, as teachers, as leaders, these are not things that they actually think through. So it's really to make sure that young people understand the dangers of it and that the adults understand the dangers of it. And then you can enact programs like the one I mentioned, where we did a massive public awareness program, song competitions, the usual, the poster competitions, and then actually having it reinforced during school about thinking twice and posting once. The other thing is also to bring out the consequences of the action. Because sometimes, especially when you're young, you don't want to hear all you talk and people talking, yeah, adults want to live on a life, I gotta live mine. But when you look now, when you're applying for visas, they're asking for your social media handles. What employers are saying now is that your social media is more important to them than your CV or your interview. So it's important to let the students know that their future can really depend on things that they're doing now on the internet that last forever. With the introduction of Snapchat, people say, oh, so it's going to go like that. It automatically depletes itself. But I'm here to tell you, hear me when I say, once it goes out on social media, it is out there forever because there's way to capture, snap, record anything that is put out into the World Wide Web. So, as you say, you mess around and find out, or be smart about it and don't.
Thank you so much, sir. That's actually very good advice because, yeah, as social media is one of the major important things that has affected our lifestyles in this age. Moving ahead, we have Teen MP Aasim Ahmed Khan from Hyderabad, India. Aasim, please ask your question.
So my question for you is, what advice would you give young leaders across the globe interested in pursuing a career in public service? And what are the most important qualities they should focus on developing?
So my advice in terms of pursuing a career in public service would probably be don't run, do something else. This is crazy. This is hard. I'm only kidding. It is really to understand and do your research, understand what you're getting involved in. The world is changing so rapid. I speak to senior parliamentarians and retired parliamentarians, and they usually pray for us because things are so different. Before, they said they used to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. They just had a landline. Constituents will reach out to them, early in the morning or in the evening. That's it. Nope. With the advent of technology and, of course, with cell phones, you are on call with these 24/7. The expectations are greater. We live in a time of superlatives. So we have the hottest heat waves, the wettest hurricanes, the longest droughts, the freakiest freak storms, the most devastating pandemics. Everything is like a superlative. So we're living in an extremely difficult time, which means that leaders, public servants, it is harder on us now than it ever was before. And I'm not just saying that from a book, I am saying that from a lived reality. Because at the same time, you have a lot of people who are suspicious about public servants, a lot of people who are, they're just disengaged. COVID was a very good example of the anti-managerial, anti-leadership, anti-scientific. So the problems are a lot more and the support is a lot less. It's a very bad combination. It's something you have to go in with both eyes open and really ready to take it on because it is extremely, extremely difficult. With an electorate that is very cynical, with an electorate that is very disengaged, misinformed, They're more interested in entertainment than facts and policies. I think there were things that happened around the world recently that should indicate that to many people. I wouldn't say what it is. But there's a reality out there that a lot of people that you are going to serve, the public, they have a lot of unrealistic expectations of you, and you have to be prepared for that. It is not for the faint-hearted. It is not for the thin-skinned. It is not for the narrow-shouldered. You get a lot of attacks, a lot of maligning. Your personal life, lies are told on you. It can affect your health, your family, everything. So you have to be really passionate about it. And you have to be, once you maintain your integrity, you maintain your motives are pure and cool, you'll get through it. But just understand what you're getting involved in. Find out a lot more about it. Please do not find out after the fact. Please do as much research, interning, whatever you want to do beforehand to see what it is you're really getting involved in. Because sometimes looking from the outside in, it looks a particular way. But when the shoe is on the foot, the pinch is extremely difficult. So I don't want to just put the bitter side. There is a good side, a bright side. For me, I'm extremely excited when all the programs I wanted to do as a youth parliamentarian, I get to implement now. The honor of walking into Parliament and representing tens of thousands of people, traveling the world and representing your country. There is good, there is positive, but understand both sides of it and ask yourself honestly the question, is this for me? Is this why I want to do it? What are my motives? And then once you answer that question, go for it with all of your might.
Thank you so much, sir. That may have really inspired us to pursue a career. But even after all that downside, there is always a silver lining in that. Moving ahead, we have Teen MP Arunima Dixit. Arunima, please ask your question.
Greetings, sir. I'm Arunima Dixit of grade 10 from Allen House Public School, Panki, Kanpur, Uttar Pradesh, India. I have a very intriguing question for you. My question is, what role can teenagers play in resolving conflicts within schools or local neighborhoods? Do you see the potential for teens to act as a mediator in certain situations?
I want to thank you for asking and answering your question at the same time, because I would answer by saying that I believe that teens should be mediators in communities and schools. You can do that from the heart, or you can do it from training, and ideally you can do it from both places as well. The whole thing about it is, and a lot of conflicts that we have even in our schools, the majority of the major conflicts were actually solved by teenagers themselves intervening. Because as a teenager, y'all all go to school, y'all know the high school culture and so on, right? When there's conflict, you can play one of two, or you can play one of three roles. You can instigate it, cheer it on, which some people do, for likes and clicks and to record it and so on. You can ignore it, which doesn't help either which way, or you can intervene in a safe way. You can try to bring the temperature down. You can learn techniques in de-escalation on how to avoid these types of things, or how to bring down the temperature in people who may be agitated. And that also goes from within the community as well. In our case, we've implemented about 3 programs, one being Peace Pioneers, where we've used young people that are involved in, social media influencers, musicians, so on. And we're talking as young as 12 that have good followings and good music. And they go around to schools and they really spread a good message of peace. So you have those types of things. We have the Gaining Strikes person, where every month businesses give a few $1,000s to young people doing good things to inspire. We punish people when they do bad. Why not reward them when they do good? And then we also have what's called the shine role models, which are the older ones, and they get up to $50,000, which is about 25,000 US dollars a year, really as a reward to show like role models can actually be rewarded as well. So these types of initiatives with incentives actually help to incentivize people, and it also gets the media involved, because the media, you know, they love bad news, but when they see people being rewarded, that covers that as well. And that can act as an inspiration to other young people to say, I can win that award, or I can be a peace pioneer, or I can be a mediator too, and make a significant contribution in my school and a significant contribution in my community.
Thank you so much, sir. We have now Teen MP Mayank Kumar Rai. Mayank, please ask your question.
My greetings to everyone. I am Mayank Kumar Rai of Star Public School, Lumshnong, Meghalaya. So, sir, I had a question that if you could give teenagers a superpower to make their communities safer, what would it be and why?
Well, the most difficult question for the morning. Good. Thank you very much. I guess the superpower, and this may seem a little corny, but the superpower would be love. Because and the reason I say love is this, right? When I drill down and look at a lot of the conflicts that we have, from sibling rivalry to wars against countries, it is usually born out of ignorance of someone else's beliefs, cultures, passions, love. And that leads to stigma and discrimination. And then that leads to conflict and war. And that happens, as I said, at the smallest level of sibling rivalry to the biggest level of wars among or between countries. So the superpower would be to love each other as you love yourself, and do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. And if everybody had that approach, how much more peaceful the world would be. Really sorry for giving you this kind of like, esoteric type, mushy answer, but I really do believe that that would be the superpower, because outside of that, I will have to go to DC Comic or Marvel or one of them and give you some superpower of speed or freezing or something like that. And that's a little less realistic. So I'm going to go with the superpower of love.
It's actually a wonderful superpower, sir. That will actually bring the world much more closer.
Thank you.
Sir, we have one or two questions in the chat box. If you could just scroll through, and if you would like to answer them.
What's the most unexpected but effective community-driven initiative you've seen that significantly reduced crime? How did the government respond to this initiative? Very good question. So I would have to say that the most unexpected one, it was a YouTube mini-series called Badness, right? So this YouTube series, it was like a real series. So this guy got this iPhone, and he started to do this series, and it was like comedy mixed with badness, right? And these people talking, and they pretending to kill one another and this kind of thing. And it went viral. Now, at the same time, it was promoting violence. Now, our Prime Minister, smart as she is, this before it was even an MP, she asked me to reach out to the guys and see if I could help them. Basically, kind of like infiltrate. That's what I felt like it was doing. So I actually became an actor in a miniseries. So I became a police in this miniseries. So I was able to speak to the directors and so on, and we kind of changed course and we kept like a lot of the rawness that the people like, but the storyline was slightly different, kind of moving towards good, but not in a cheesy way. The unexpected thing about that was two things that were really good. One is that you had groups that were genuinely against each other fighting against each other, putting the fight behind them so that they can work on set together. And that actually ended a lot of conflict between groups because they wanted to participate in this mini series. And that was not expected at all, but it just so happened. The second thing that happened was a lot of the actors would reach out to me and others, ask questions about, how they could change their life, how they could go back to school, these type of things. So that wasn't expected either. So I think that answers the question, and that's why I love that question, because I wasn't even thinking about that as an initiative, because that was organic, that did not come from the government. The government responded to it by supporting it. I say infiltrate, it sounds bad, but positively infiltrate it, and then change course on it. I used its popularity to get the message out there to many, many other people. So I think that is asked and answered. How can a teenager contribute to integrating mental health support into community-driven crime prevention? Well, just last night, the Psychological Association here had a part of discussion that was on, and we were talking about this very thing. A teenager can do that by actually, again, raising awareness, reducing taboo around mental health. Mental health still has a lot of stigma attached to it. Talk about it more, normalize it more. That is really part of the big step. And then actually have mental health sessions. So support group sessions, you can call them different things. Just like we're doing here now. You have a computer, you have Zoom. You can have Zoom sessions or in-person sessions with your friends, looking at mental health check-ins. And again, you could call it different things. Here, what I try to do is a convalescent week and so on, where we work in communities and, pay for spas and massages and different things. So people start to think about their well-being and wellness and mental health, emotional intelligence, art therapy, pet therapy. We started to introduce all these things. Sensory therapy that I was introduced to and I fell in love with. This room you go in and it got these nice lights and candles and songs, and you're like hypnotized and feel really good. You feel really sad after the 30 minutes and you have to leave, but nonetheless, very good initiative. So these are things that we can push and introduce. So next one, I go, what role does youth engagement play in community-driven safety initiatives? And are there any specific programs targeting young people that have been proven effective in reducing crime rates? So when I talk about entertain, brain, train, and sustain, there are a number of them. So what role does youth play? A massive, integral role that cannot be emphasized too much. That without the youth, there's no programs for us. That's number one. I'll give two programs, just to pull two. One is called Flip the Script, and the Extreme Games one that I mentioned. So Flip the Script, we got some change agents where we actually use very influential community persons who were once involved in crime, rehabilitated, but still have a lot of street cred, have a lot of influence in the community. We use them to bring out these hard to reach, impossible to reach young people. We took them to a hotel. A lot of them are poor, they live in poverty, never been to the nice hotels. So we took them to the hotel, they enjoy that. We give them those motivational speeches, not the ones where you're yawning. We brought in people, powerful speeches, nice lunch. And then 8 weeks, every Saturday they turned up. We did different sessions with them. Simple things like that we take for granted, how to eat with a knife and fork, how to dress, how to speak, how to love yourself. And that has been very, very, very successful. We've had a lot of success stories where we've been highlighting these students moving away from crime and moving into winning stuff and, going in the newspaper for a different reason. So we've been able to highlight that in a short 16, 18-month period. The second one is this bike program that we've just started, where a lot of young people, again, not involved in any wholesome or structured activity. When we launched that program, it was oversubscribed. And again, we use it to draw them in. But in order to complete your circuit for a season, you have to get a number of credits. And those credits are not just linked to writing. You have personal and professional development sessions. You learn about maintaining the bikes. You learn about yourself. You learn, and you get to do some travel and some competition. And we've seen people really give up a life of crime, give up a life of bad behavior so that they can stay in a season or stay on the circuit. Because there's a circuit with like, you know, first, second, third, fourth, and they want to stay on the circuit. So they actually trading their bad behavior to be part of this. So those are some initiatives that we've seen lower the crime rate. What role do you think schools, local businesses, community organizations play in preventing crime? And I often refer to crime prevention as a whole of nation mission, and not mission for law enforcement or for police alone. It has to involve all aspects of business: school, community, media, government, opposition, everybody, if we want to be successful. I am at pains to point out, even in my own country, I'm seen as the crime czar or the crime boss. And I have to remind the society that crime prevention is not about an individual. Crime prevention is indivisible. It means that we are all responsible. So the role that they play is to be able to give your time, your talent, or your treasure, or all three, to crime prevention initiatives. Give your time, volunteer. In all of our communities, there are people that you can reach out to. There are people in your communities that are less fortunate. Some of them may not have physical resources that you have. Some of them may not have the moral support that you have. Somebody to be a friend to them, somebody to help them with homework. You can give of your time. And that goes for businesses, schools, community groups, individuals. I link it into another question. It's what citizens can do. You can give of your talent. Some people have talent, singing. You may be good at accounting. You may be good at whatever your talent is, a carpenter. You can give to your society, to an organization, to a charity, to an at-risk youth, in order to help the situation. And your treasure, it costs to care. If you have the wherewithal to make a donation, to sponsor, to purchase a device for someone in your community who may not be able to afford it genuinely, you can share your treasure. So time, talent, treasure are all ways that schools, businesses, communities, average citizens can play in actually helping with crime prevention. My question is, what measure will be taken to improve street lighting and install CCTV cameras in public areas, enhancing safety? I think we touched on that a bit, but I could close with that. Again, what we did, we have embassies in our country, different embassies that actually made donations to help with this, and the business community as well. And actually tomorrow, 3 police officers from here is actually traveling to Istanbul and Switzerland to look at some new technology in terms of light bars, where instead of just having stationary CCTV, we actually going to turn every emergency vehicle, whether it be fire, police, ambulance, into surveillance machines, where on the top, the light bar that you see that light up will actually carry cameras that have facial recognition, plate recognition, and be feeding into a command center. So you have somebody that's wanted, if you have a crime that's being committed, if you have a car on the road that's not registered, if you have somebody speeding, instead of depending just on human technology, we're going to be using a bit of AI and a bit of technology to actually spread the surveillance, the deterrence, and the detection capability of the country with the criminals. Again, we're using technology to enhance crime prevention. That's not to mention the drones. That's not to mention a number of the other technological things that we have in place to ensure that we have a safer community and a safer country. So I thank you all very much for these very, very good questions. And I think you all should all be proud of yourselves for keeping me going, making me sweat, and being able to share with you. It's been really the honor to be here with you to share all of these answers with you.
Thank you so much, sir. And on behalf of all the attendees and all the world team, Parliament and Club World, I'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to you for sharing your expertise and valuable insights on today's topic. Your guidance has not only deepened our understanding of how communities can come together for impactful crime prevention, but has also inspired us to think about the role of each one of us, what we can play in making our spaces safer. We're also deeply grateful to World Team Parliament for hosting this masterclass and platforms like these where young people have the opportunity to learn directly from world leaders are truly transformative. And thank you for empowering teachers to engage in teenagers to engage in meaningful global discussions. I would like to commend all the participants for the wonderful questions during the Q&A round. The thoughtful engagement demonstrated a genuine interest in the understanding of complex issues and shows how invested we all were in what Sir was telling us, and it was really a wonderful session. To everyone involved in organizing this event, thank you for making it such a success. Together, we'll carry forward these lessons and look for ways to make difference in our own communities. Thank you once again. Thank you, Corey sir. Thank you to everyone here.
Right. One thing before we go, we actually have young people in Barbados participating in a speak off tonight. I'll send the link. I think it's gonna be like 6 o'clock our time, which is gonna be like 4 o'clock in the morning for you guys. So I don't know who'll be up to listen, but I still would like to have the link provided in case you want to hear a speak off from over in this side of the world. All right. So y'all can look out for that link. I'll send it to the coordinator and they can get it out to you guys.
We would love that, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you and enjoy, everyone. Have a good day.
Namaste. Good night.